friends. We have been extensively considering the working of a Carnot cycle, the different aspects of the Carnot cycle. Now this Carnot cycle, we saw that it enables us to represent the operation of a heat engine. Like the heat engine, it works in a thermodynamic framework which we are interested in. It relates the exchange of thermal energy and the physical work that is being done. So given that this heat engine is a representative form of an operation that occurs in the physical world and one that represents the thermodynamic framework, we are interested in it, and we consider this operation of the heat engine, and we saw that this operation of the heat engine can be translated into a simplistic theoretical setup, and this we referred to as the Carnot engine or the Carnot cycle. And using this Carnot cycle, we arrived at certain relations. Some relations were consistent with what we observe in the physical world. So one such relation was how a work that is done when you supply a given heat input and there is a loss associated with it. Now this work, when we try to recover it, we will not be able to recover the entire heat input that we have provided, but we will be able to recover only the heat that has been translated to work. So when we considered, or when we used Carnot cycle, or when we represented the operation of a physical heat engine in the form of a Carnot cycle, or when we considered how the Carnot cycle can be built around the operation of the heat engine, one of the relation we arrived at was for a given heat input, and there is a work that is being done and there is a heat that is lost. When we create a reverse of the cycle, then we try to do some work and get some heat out of the reverse heat engine. We saw we will not be able to get back our original heat input. However, but what we will end up having is we will be able to recover only the portion of the heat that was translated into work. So this is one of the theoretical relation that we arrived at while considering the operation of the heat engine, and this theoretical relation was consistent with the physical world. However, when we looked deep into the operation of the heat engine, we arrived at certain other forms of theoretical relation. We considered rather a complex heat engines that involved that coupled two different heat engines. We built rather complex system that involved coupled heat engines, and in those cases we saw the theoretical derivations. They gave us certain expression. They rendered us certain relations between the work done and the heat input and the heat that is lost that were rather non-physical. And in order to re-establish the physicality, in order to ensure that the physical world and the theoretical derivations that we arrive at are consistent, we postulated the second law of thermodynamics. And depending on the system that we built, depending on the coupling of the heat engines that we considered, we arrived at two different versions of the second law of thermodynamics. Now, one version involved the ability or the physical nature of the heat engine to lose some heat while it's translating a given input into work. So whenever in a physical world, if there is an heat engine that is operating and you are feeding in some heat, there is a portion of the heat that is lost and only the remnant portion of your input is being converted into work. So this is a simplistic version of the one variant of the second law of thermodynamics. So if there is no heat that is lost, then what we would essentially be able to do is we will be able to create a perpetually operating heat engine which is not physical. So this is one version of the second law of thermodynamics. The second version, we saw that it is not possible for us to transfer heat from a low temperature source or a reservoir to a high temperature source or a reservoir. So without doing any work, there cannot be a spontaneous transfer of heat. So if you could recollect our description of spontaneity, then the second variant or the other variant of the second law of thermodynamics states that without doing any work, spontaneously it is not possible for the heat to get transferred from the low temperature reservoir to an high temperature reservoir. Now, the Carnot cycle it served us, as of now, it served us two different purposes. It helped us relate or create a theoretical setup for an operating heat engine. Irrespective of how complex the heat engine is, now we are able to represent it in a theoretical framework in a simpler manner using just two rather state variables, that is pressure and volume. So whatever be the nature of your heat engine, now through the Carnot cycle it is easy, or it is possible for us to represent its operation using these rather straightforward thermodynamic variable. Now the other purpose it served the Carnot cycle, that's the study or our consideration of the Carnot cycle, it helped us postulate these two different variants of the thermodynamic or the second law of thermodynamic. Now what we will do is, we will look further into, even though we have extensively considered the Carnot cycle, we will look further into it in order to gain a more important relation that will help us understand the relation between the Carnot cycle, the heat engine, and the phase transformation that we are, as metallurgical and materials engineer, we are interested in. So far, this heat engine, Carnot cycle, they have a feel of an operation of a machine, an operation of something that has a very least to do with the phase transformation or phase change. Now, having gained some understanding of the fundamental of the Carnot cycle, we will try to arrive at a relation that will help us relate this Carnot cycle, its operation, to that of the phase transformation. So in order to do that, let us again reconsider the working of the Carnot cycle. The Carnot cycle is rather straightforward now, because we have extensively considered it. So it begins with a system at state A, and there is an heat input, and that this heat input changes the system at state A to, or it moves the system from state A to state B. So there is a heat input. So this is a non-adiabatic cycle or non-adiabatic event, because there is a heat input. So, and this heat input is from a reservoir that is held at high temperature. Now once the system reaches the state B, we allow the system to equilibrate, and the system reaches a state C, and this temperature at C is low, and the reason it is low, and because it is low, there is the heat that is lost during the operation of the heat engine is accommodated here in this cycle between C to D. Between the transition from C to D is the heat that is lost by the heat engine is accommodated in the Carnot cycle, and since there is the transfer of heat from the system to the reservoir, so the reservoir is rather held at a low temperature. And now in order to complete the cycle, we are forcibly compressing the system so that it reaches the initial point A. So this is where the theoretical aspects comes in, because we are enforcing the cyclic event. Carnot cycle, we are turning it into a cycle by enforcing or by compressing the system that is at D so that it reaches the initial point A. So we have included certain aspects of what we observed during the operation of the heat engine in the Carnot cycle. In addition to that, we have included certain things purely from an hypothetical standpoint, in order to ensure that what we end up is not an open circuit but rather a cycle. So what we essentially have done is, in order for the system to move from D to A, we have compressed it, and here what you essentially have is the heat that is let out of the system. So heat, it is let in here, and heat that is lost during the operation of the heat engine is let out when the system is allowed to transition from C to D. So these two, A to B and C to D transition, non-adiabatic but isothermal. In B to C, there is no transfer of heat, but there is a change in temperature from high to low and low to high. So essentially what we have is non-isothermal, but there is no change in heat, so, or transfer of heat, so it is adiabatic. Now, so far we have just considered these, we have just rendered only these considerations to the Carnot cycle. Now we will get we'll dig a little bit deeper and consider the individual work done in the operation of the Carnot cycle, and then try to arrive at a relation that will help us relate or gain or help us understand what is the significance of understanding the Carnot cycle in the framework of metallurgical and materials engineering. Now, so far what we have done is, we have considered the overall work done to be the combination of the work done during each of these transition. So it is possible for us to break down the overall work done into the work done during when the system moves from or changes from state A to state B and state B to state C. And often what we would do is we would rather, since we are now acquainted with the convention, we would look into the transition from C to D and assume and we state that okay, there is a compression that is involved, there is a decrease in volume that is involved, therefore we can directly introduce a negative sign here. However, for this derivation we will let this be positive and also this work done, we will let this be positive. The reason is primarily because we will derive it in such a way that this change in the volume, this decrease in the volume that essentially brings about the negative sign by convention here is accommodated in the way we express this individual work. Let me repeat, while we express, there are two ways of expressing the overall work done during the Carnot cycle. One way to do that is you bring the signs that is associated with the convention directly into the formulation. So if you introduce the convention directly, then what you would end up having is you would essentially end up having two negative signs here because there is a compression event that is involved. Now instead of that, it is same as writing, instead of having this negative sign here, it is also possible, like if you could recollect, it is also possible for us to write it in this manner, to bring the negative sign and relate it to the individual expression of the works that is done between CD and DA. So that is essentially what we are doing. So we will, instead of doing all this, we will write the overall work done as the summation of all the individual works, and the convention we will try to include it in the individual expression. Now let us try to arrive at the individual expression for the work done during AB. So what essentially happens during AB is there is a heat input, and in this transition, particularly in this Carnot cycle, in this theoretical cycle, when the system A changes its states from when the system at state A changes its state from A to B, there is a heat input and there is a work being done. Now again, in this theoretical consideration, when the system changes from state A to B, there is no heat loss. The heat loss is accommodated when the system changes its state from C to B or rather C to D. So when the system changes its state from A to B, the work AB is done, and this work AB is done primarily because of the heat input, and this whole heat input is converted into work AB. Now when we consider the first law of thermodynamics, the overall change in the internal energy when the system changes its state from A to B, we can express that as the heat input that is involved when the system changes from A to B and the work done. Now since all the work, all the heat input that we provide when the system is at A, it gets converted completely to that or gets converted completely to work, or it is completely employed to do some amount of work, then what essentially happens is the internal energy change is rather zero. So what we have is this, instead of having this expression here, what we end up having is the work done is completely equal to that of the heat input that we provide. Now let us consider how the other ways of expressing this work done. So when the system changes from A to B, we provide an heat input, and this heat input is completely getting converted into work, and therefore there is no change in the internal energy, and we arrive at this expression here. Now the other way of expressing this work would be to consider its canonical description, that is, we have a work done between A and B and there is a significant change in the volume. So therefore we have an initial volume VA and we have a final volume VB, and the canonical definition is of this form. So you have, I will write it in a little smaller way as I would need some more space. So we have our initial volume VA, we have our final volume VB, and we have our canonical description of the work done. So this is rather straightforward. Now if you could recollect our initial discussion, we have related the pressure to the temperature in this relation. So as the temperature increases, the pressure increases, and also the pressure and the volume in this relation, where when you increase the volume, the pressure decreases, and when you decrease the volume, the pressure increases. So these are some laws like Charles and Boyle's law, which you could have got exposed to in your school days or even in your early courseworks. So essentially we have these two laws, and when you combine these two laws, what you end up having is PV by T is a constant, and this constant is referred to as R. And now what we will try to do is we will try to find or arrive at an expression for the P, the pressure here. So therefore it is referred, or this can be written as RT by V. Now essentially this expression here can be then written as something like this, VA by VB, and we are replacing the pressure here with RT and V. So therefore we end up with having an expression something like this. So we are replacing the pressure with this expression, and we end up having an expression. The work done is of this form here. Now we can integrate it, and we will end up having an expression that looks something like this, VB, that is the final volume, and the ratio of the and the denominator will be the initial volume. Now what we have is we have an expression for the work done when the system moves from state A to state B while a heat is fed into the system. So this is of the form RT ln VB by VA. Now if you consider the nature of the work, it remains the same. So there is a work that is being done, and here there is because of this work there is a heat that is being, or rather there is a change in the volume, and again there is not a loss of heat when you just consider a portion of the cycle. Again the loss of heat is associated with the heat engine, and that loss of heat is considered in a different event. The loss of heat that is observed in the physical world in the Carnot cycle is included in a separate event when the system changes from C to D. So when you have a transition from A to B, what you essentially have is you have a heat input that is completely getting transferred into work, and the same is observed when you consider the event when the system changes from state C to D. So there is a similarity between the change in state from A to B and C to D. So that similarity is you have a translation of heat transfer to work, and here in both these we don't have any heat loss. So whatever heat transfer occurs is completely getting transferred into work. So this is the similarity. The main dissimilarity is that in the event of the system changing from A to B, there is a heat input. In the event of C to D, there is an heat output. Now when you consider the work aspect of it, there is an expansion of volume when you consider the event of A to B, and there is a decrease in the volume when you consider the event of C to D. Now like we said, instead of bringing about the negative sign here, what we will do is we will let the sign be positive, and we will treat or express or arrive at an expression similar to what we have arrived at for A to B. So this here remains the same, and again if you consider the work done from C to D, it will be possible for us to express it in a canonical manner, wherein the initial volume, the higher volume is VC, and the final volume, that is the lower volume, is VD, and we have this canonical description. Now we will introduce, or we will replace the pressure here with this relation again, and we will arrive at this expression something like this, RT dV by V, and again we have at as our initial state a higher volume, and as our final state the lower volume. So again, since we are treating it in this manner, the positive remains the same, and ultimately what you end up having is RT ln VD by VC. So now this temperature here, this again is an isothermal process, this is an isothermal process. So here the temperature is different from the temperature that is in which the work happens here. So here the work is happening at a higher temperature, and when the work when the system or changes from state C to E occurs at a lower temperature. So we need to make that distinction. So here we can include H indicating high, here we can include N indicating low. So what essentially we have is, we have an expression for the work that is done during two events that is involved in the Carnot cycle. We have not just considered the work as WAB or WCD. Now we have a canonical expression that includes the change in the volume. So it is the change in the volume that through convention brings about the negative sign. So since we have directly considered the change in the volume, now it is not required for us to bring about this, to bring rather the conventions into play. We have directly considered the volume. So it is more or less equivalent. Now let us try to consider the work done when the system changes from state B to C. Now this change in state is, again, if you could recollect, it is non-isothermal. While A to B and C to D are isothermal, D to C is non-isothermal, but it is non-adiabatic. So essentially you have a change in the temperature. So now when you consider a change in the temperature and a non-adiabatic system, what you essentially have is, you have a non-adiabatic system, meaning the Q is 0. So let me differentiate the supplementary discussions by this green box here. So these are supplementary discussion that helps us with the derivation. So let me have another supplementary discussion here. So what you essentially have is, when you consider an adiabatic evolution, so A to B and C to D are non-adiabatic because there is a heat transfer. Now when you consider an adiabatic evolution, what you essentially would end up having is, you can go back to our the first law of thermodynamics. So you have a change in state from B to C, and here what you essentially have is the Q is 0 and the work done. So this Q, because it's rather an adiabatic process, that is the transition from B to C is an adiabatic process, so it means there is no transfer of heat that is involved. So you have the BC that is being equated to that of the change in the internal energy. So there is a change in the internal energy that is involved during the transition from B to C. We saw that from A to B and C to D, the change in the internal energy is 0, but there is a non-zero change in the internal energy when the system changes its states from B to C, primarily because it is a non-adiabatic process, and this is equal to that of the work done. And again, it is possible for us to get rid of the negative sign here because we are giving a definitive consideration to the volume change, and therefore we are including the appropriate volume. So therefore it is possible for us to get rid of the negative sign, and irrespective of it, you will get to know that even if you include the convention here, even if you go by the conventional derivation, you will understand the end product is going to remain the same. Nevertheless, what you essentially have is, the work done is now being equated to that of the change in the internal energy. Now if you could recollect, the change in the internal energy can be described by using a material constant, the constant of the state of the system. So this constant or the state of the system we arrived at by making an assumption that during the transition the volume of the state remains the same. So when you have a transition wherein the volume of the state remains the same, we saw that the change in the internal energy will be equal to that of work. So when you have rather a constant volume system, the change in the internal energy is equal to that of the heat exchange, because dV that governs the work will be 0. So essentially, when you assume a system to be in constant volume, then you are able to relate the change in the internal energy to the heat transfer. Now when we have, or when we consider such a system in constant volume and try to measure its heat capacity, it will be of this form, Q by dt. And since Q is nothing but change in the internal energy of a system, now the change in the internal energy of the system using the constant can be described by Cv dot dt. So essentially what we have is, we are now able to arrive at an expression for the change in the internal energy using change in the temperature. The reason we are trying to do that is primarily because this transition from B to C is a non-isothermal process. So, and it is also, or rather it is a non-isothermal process, and because there is a change in the temperature, and it is also an adiabatic process. So adiabatic process helps us understand that the work done can be related to the change in the internal energy. So there are two characteristic features of the change in the transition from B to C. One is adiabatic, the other is non-isothermal. So the adiabatic helps us understand that the work done is equal to the change in the internal energy. And now we are attempting to quantify this internal energy through using a system parameter, a system constant, and for that we are introducing the system constant, which is heat capacity at constant volume. And now we have an expression that relates a system constant and includes the change in the temperature. Now again, this is rather a secondary calculation, a secondary derivation that is important for our primary derivation. Now essentially what you have is, you have an expression for the work done when the system changes from state B to C, and it can be expressed in this manner, that is Cv dt, and we have our end temperature, that is T low, so that it comes above, and we have our initial, rather let me write it more legibly, so our final temperature is T low, our initial temperature is Ti. Now we can use the same approach and we can estimate or arrive at the expression for the work done during AD. So instead of going into the expression for the work done during BC and AD, let us focus on this aspect here, that is, similar to the transition from B to C, we have the transition from A to B. So we have similar transition from D to A. So like we have a transition from B to C. So we have a transition from B to C. It is non-isothermal and adiabatic, and the same goes for D to A. It is non-isothermal and adiabatic. So the characteristic feature of the transition B to C is similar to that of the D to A. So this is something that we can be convinced with. So that the nature of the transition from B to C is similar to that of the D to A. Now we saw, because of this nature, that is, because this transition is adiabatic and non-isothermal, what you end up having is, you end up having a change in the internal energy. You introduce a change in the internal energy. So here, since this event occurs first, there is a change in the internal energy. If this internal energy is not compromised, if it is not completely reduced, then we will not have a cyclic event. So let me repeat. We saw that internal energy is a state function. So therefore, whenever we want to calculate the internal energy, then, and for a cyclic event wherein you have an initial point and you end up with that same point, then given that the internal energy is a state function, the overall change for this Carnot cycle, the overall internal energy change for the Carnot cycle will be 0. So let me move to another slide. So what we have is a Carnot cycle, a cyclic event, which means you end up where you started. So for that characteristic event, what you essentially have is, you have the change in the internal energy should be 0. Now we saw that when the system changes from B to C, there is a non-zero internal energy. There is a non-zero internal energy. Now we have similar event when the system changes from D to A. So we have a similar event. So even in that case, we have a non-zero change in the internal energy. For B to C, you have a non-zero change in the internal energy, and D to A, we have a non-zero change in the internal energy. However, because this is a cyclic event, because we are going to end up at the initial point, so this condition can only be satisfied when these two cancel out each other. Only when these two cancel out each other, this condition, this thermodynamic condition will be satisfied. So therefore, what this means is that the work done when the system moves from B to C will cancel out the work done when the system moves from D to A. So in the overall scheme, in the overall expression which we considered here, C to D and work done during C, or rather D to A, these two works done, they cancel out each other because we need to ensure that because it's a cyclic event, the overall change in the internal energy should be 0. So therefore, since these two work done, that is when the system changes from B to C and when the system changes from D to A, since these two cancel out each other, the overall work done during the Carnot cycle gets reduced to this expression here. So we have the overall work done, that is work done during AB transition and the work done during CD transition. So essentially the way we are able to reduce this, because we are considering a cyclic event, and in this cyclic event, because we end up with the starting point, we end where we started, the change in the internal energy should be 0. In order to achieve that, the work done during the transition from B to C and A to D needs to cancel out each other, and therefore we end up with this expression here. Now this expression can be, so when you consider our previous relation that we derived, so the overall work done can be expressed using these two terms here, these two terms. So this term 1 and this term 2 is using these two. So if you get rid of all the auxiliary derivations that we have considered, which is, so include this, so we have two expressions for the work done during AB and CD. So this can be written as, when you have AB, you are operating at high temperature, so RT high temperature, so you are ending up with the volume B starting with volume A. And similarly, when you consider the transition from C or C to D, your final volume is D and your initial volume is C. So we have two different temperature, one constant that is involved. Now let us try to operate or try to arrive at a relation between this VB and VA and VD and VC. So in order to, we will try to ensure that we are able to simplify this expression here. We are able to ensure that, or we are able to arrive at a single expression that involves these two volumes, a single expression that relates these two. So we essentially have these 4 different volumes, and we will try to arrive at, or we will try to relate these 4 different volumes so that we are able to reduce the number of independent variables that are involved. Now for that, in order to do that, let us go back to the auxiliary derivations that we have with us right now. So one of the auxiliary derivations that we have arrived at is this relation between PV and RT, and we also have arrived at a relation that essentially relates the material property to that of the change in the state of the system. So we will use these auxiliary relations, and we will try to ensure, or we will try to reduce the number of the independent variables that are involved in this system. So in order to do that, let us go back to our auxiliary derivation. So we have considered this adiabatic non-isothermal events. So we have two adiabatic non-isothermal events, and in this non-isothermal events we have a change in temperature, and this we need to consider because we also have a temperature, 2 different temperatures that is involved, and also there is a change in the volume we are interested in, that is B, the volume at B, and C and volume at D and A. So these events, that is the adiabatic non-isothermal events, because they consider both the temperature that is we are interested in, that is this expression, we are interested in 2 different temperatures, and the volumes we are interested in, we will consider these 2 events. Now one advantage of considering these 2 events is that we are able to observe the change in the internal energy, and the change in the internal energy we are able to relate it to a work, and the same change in the internal energy we are able to express it through a material constant. So essentially we are able to express the change in the internal energy through a material constant, and the change in the internal energy through the work done. So the change in the internal energy now, so there is a change in the internal energy, so there is a transition from B to C that introduces a change in the internal energy, and this we have related to a system constant or a material constant. Now essentially what this allows us to do is, we are now in a position to quantify this work done using the material constant. So what we essentially have is, we have the minus of the work done. So in this case, we will consider, since we are considering a change in the, or we are considering the arriving at this relation between the material constant, that is CV, and the work done from the first law of thermodynamics, we have to consider the convention that is involved. Let me make the distinction. The reason we have not considered the convention here is because we have arrived at the explicit relation. Here we are still discussing in terms of the first law, so the convention is important. So here we have the work done when the system moves from B to C, and it is related to the CV dot dt, and this dt, it involves the change in the temperature that is associated with this work done. Now essentially, we need not to quantify this work done, we integrate, or we need to arrive at this expression that is associated with the work done during BC. So we have to arrive at an expression that is similar to the one that we have considered here. We have to arrive at an explicit expression that is involved when the system moves from B to C. So in order to arrive at that, we will go for the conventional description, the canonical description of the work done. So P dV minus, and the system now moves from state B to state C. And we still have the constant relation here. Now what we can do is we can get rid of this term here, and essentially what you would end up having is you would end up having an expression that looks something like this. So here, like we are integrating, so we will end up having, since we are integrating here, we will end up having an expression something like rather RT by V dV. The system moves from state B to state C. So again, and this we have related to the material constant. So now what can be done is we can let the V stay here and bring the T out here, and so that we are able to integrate the right hand side of the expression as well. So you have a change in the volume, and also you have the change in the temperature. So this also needs to be integrated. So therefore this change in the temperature, it moves from, so it starts with T high and it moves to T low. So you start from T high and it moves to T low. So what you essentially end up having is, so if you write, let me have this relation here. So if you write this extended form of the expression here, you would end up having RT, so minus is there, RT ln the end final volume is VC by BB and you would, so you are integrating this term here from its final temperature to the, or rather from the initial temperature to the final temperature. So in this cycle, when the system moves from B to C, what you end up having is the initial temperature is high, the final temperature is low. So therefore you have your high temperature and the low temperature here. So you end up having, again in this case here, you would end up having CV ln, so you would have your low temperature at the top and the high temperature at the bottom. So you end up with an expression something like this. So essentially what you have done is you have now able to relate the temperature to that of the, so you are able to relate the change in the volume that occurs during a transition from B to C to a material constant and the temperature change from high to low. So you are able to relate the change in the volume that occurs during this change in state. So system changes from state B to C, so there is a change in the volume and there is a corresponding change in the temperature. So the change in the volume and the change in the temperature, you are able to relate it here. Now the same can be done for the transition that occurs when the system moves from D to A. Again we saw that the transition from B to C is similar to that of the transition from D to A. Now when you do that, what essentially you would end up having is these two you will arrive at the similar, so you will be able to arrive at a similar expression that relates the change in the volume to the corresponding change in the temperature. And when you, so you will be able to ultimately arrive at a similar right hand side of the equation. So this comes from the transition from D to C. And now when you consider the transition from D to A, given that when the system moves from, or it changes its state from D to A, even though the change in the volume is different, so there is a characteristic change in the volume, the characteristic change in the temperature remains the same and the material constant remains the same. And now when you arrive at the similar expression for D to A, and since you will be able to arrive at the same right hand side of the expression, you will be able to equate the two left hand side of the equation. So essentially what you would end up having is, you would end up having an expression something like RT ln, so where the end volume is, or rather the final volume is VA and the initial volume is VD, and you will end up having a similar relation between the high and the low temperature, and you would have a negative sign here. So essentially, given that both the characteristic features of the transition from B to C and C to A are the same, you can go through all these auxiliary steps and arrive at an expression similar to this. And now it is possible for us to bring this negative sign here and change the order of this fraction and arrive at a similar RHS relation. So essentially, when you do that, when you arrive at a similar RHS relation, then we can equate these two expression on the left hand side of the equation. So essentially we have gone step by step derivation in order to arrive at this expression here, this equation here for the transition from B to C. The same step by step derivation can be done for the transition from D to A, and you will arrive at an expression like this. Now if you could compare on the right hand side, the only difference is the difference in the order or in the nature of this fraction here. Now by bringing this negative sign here, you can change this fraction such that these two are the same. So for both these equations, the right hand side remains the same. So therefore it is possible for us to equate the left hand side of the expression. And when you equate the left hand side of the expression, you will end up realizing that these two remains the same. So these two are the same with a negative sign here. So these two the ratios are the fraction of the volume. When you equate these two expressions that we have arrived at through these steps of derivation, when you equate these two, you will observe that. Maybe you can take some time, because rather these steps will even more consume our time, and I don't want to dwell or give all these steps that are involved in the derivation. So I will just skip that one single step. Maybe you can try to arrive at that on your own. So essentially what you will observe is, you will observe that when you consider these two steps, then these two volumes are equal with just a negative sign here. So essentially what you would end up having is, you would end up having an expression. So given that these two are equal, the one within the ln is equal, then you can, so then you would have several common factors. So this will be a common term, this will be R would be a common parameter, and given that the volume are equal and you are able to derive it from this expression, so these two will be a common factors, and only variable is the difference in the temperature. So essentially the overall work done can be expressed as something like this. The overall work done, you have your common factor and you have your common factor that you are able to derive through the ratios. So you are able to derive that this is also a common factor, and the only difference is T high minus T low. So this is the overall work done. Now if you could recollect, we were able to arrive at similar expression for Q input. So the Q input here as, so this is equal to the work done when the system changes from A to B. So we have an expression for the Q input here. So this Q input is nothing but RT ln Vb by Va, and this T, because we are considering the transition from A to B, is high temperature. So just we will try to rewrite that expression here as well. So Qin, which is equal to the work done when the system moves from A to B, that is the Qin of the heat input, is equal to the R that we have seen and the temperature in which it is operating, that is high temperature, and the change, the corresponding change in the volume, that is Vb by Va. Now the efficiency of this Carnot cycle or the heat engine is nothing but the amount of work done with the heat input. And when you consider the ratio, then essentially these constant terms, they get cancelled out. And ultimately, so let me use a different color. So these constant terms, they get cancelled out. And ultimately the efficiency now adopts an expression which is dependent on the temperature. So initially the efficiency, it was described entirely based on the heat exchange. So we were able to arrive or translate the work done into heat input minus heat that is lost. So therefore the overall efficiency is nothing but the heat that can be recovered from the heat input. So this was one of the expression for the efficiency we have arrived at. Now through this further extensive derivation, we are able to arrive at an expression for the efficiency using the state variables. So these are path variables and these now are the state variables. So essentially we are now able to discuss the efficiency of a heat engine by considering the temperature in which it operates. So we have the difference between high temperature and the low temperature in the numerator and the high temperature at the denominator. Now the key relation that we are interested in that helps us relate all these discussions on Carnot cycle and second law to the phase transformation is how this path and the state variables are related. Since for a given heat engine the efficiency is going to remain the same, we can equate the expression on the right hand side of the equation. So what you end up having is Qin minus the heat input minus the heat output divided by the heat input is equal to the high temperature in which the heat engine is operating and the low temperature and the high temperature. So even though this might seem rather straightforward, even though this might seem like okay, we know some relation between heat and temperature, and so we can see the concept behind this relation. In the next lecture we will see the primary importance of spending all this time in arriving at this relation. So essentially what we have done is we have looked into the Carnot cycle in a more closed manner, even though due to the time constraint I was not able to take you through all the steps. I have made some compromise and let you consider the steps that are involved here. So in these cases I have compromised my overall discussion, but nevertheless the reason we considered or extensively considered all these other steps of the derivation to arrive at this particular expression is primarily because this expression plays a critical role in our subsequent discussion. This expression plays or helps us understand one of the concepts that is irrefutable in the whole universe. So that is the scope of what this expression will help us understand, and that's the reason we spent all those time in deriving at these equation. So these terminologies or these arrangement of these few terms is something that governs every event that occurs in all the universe. So these few terms that are involved, these few rather straightforward heat and temperature terms that are involved in this final expression is what governs the entire change in the whole universe, and this forms the basis of the irrefutable form of thermodynamics, the irrefutable form of the second law of thermodynamics. So whenever you hear about one law that is irrefutable in the whole universe, that law stems from this simple relation here, and that's the reason why we spent quite some portion of the entire lecture in arriving at this relation. We will look into the significance of this relation. The reason why we spent all this will be justified in the next lecture. So we will see ourselves in the next lecture. Goodbye.